It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Yo, man. Boom, it's Rusty. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Public Access Podcast, the podcast here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. I'm your host, Rusty Diamond, and welcome. Boom. Today is October 1st. So that means shit is here. Whatever that means, whatever that doesn't mean, whatever that could mean, whatever that may or may not mean. But that is what is going on today. So, yeah, thank you everyone for being here. Find me, rustydiamond.net. You can figure everything else out there. If you can't figure it out there, I don't know what to tell you. Got to get real. Got to get the shit going. And so it's time for me to bring on my special guest. And my special guest is right here and right now. And my special guest right here and right now is Linda Eastburn. Welcome, Linda. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a good morning.
It is a good morning. So I was thinking it was Monday morning. So we're not quite Monday morning today, but close, sort of close. Could be Monday morning, but it's not Monday morning. So you said earlier, you're up early. You're doing everything early. You're on the Eastern time zone, correct?
I'm in Central. Yeah, Central time zone. I'm in Missouri, actually.
So you're up early.
Yeah.
Would you set an alarm?
I don't set an alarm. I just wake up naturally, and I just get a lot of stuff done before the phones start ringing and before active things start happening. I just have that quiet time that I can do a lot of marketing on social media and check out all my YouTube stuff and, do that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's really nice when nobody is quite up yet, and you can kind of get all that stuff done before you have 58 other people that are ready to jump on in and do all that stuff and party. And yeah, it's a cool thing. I always like being able to do that, to be able to get up. I like 5 o'clock is a good time. I think 5, if you can get up at 5 and have mostly everything you really need to do before everybody else is awake, especially if you're, not on the East Coast. If you're on the East Coast, it's a little more difficult. But if you're on the West Coast and you're up at 5 o'clock, you're doing pretty well. If you're up at 5 o'clock I think if you're up at 5 o'clock anywhere, you're doing pretty well, and you're able to get that big jump on everyone, especially now with it being kind of all over the world, that it's not just people around you that you're talking with, it's people from all over.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's been good for me. I kind of got in that habit of getting up early when I was writing. I've written 4 books, so it was a really good time to have that space where you're not interrupted to just write. Not in the process of writing a book specifically right now, but that's when I got in that habit, and I found out it just worked well for me.
What got you to start putting pen to paper, fingers to typewriter, fingers to phone or computer, or hand to chisel and hammer to stone?
Well, my first book I wrote that about 20 years ago, so that's been a while. And then I wrote another book in 2015. So there was a lot of space in between. And then the last year I've written 2 books. So a lot of it had to do with the intuitive work that I was doing. So I was really wanting to get a book out there to explain who I was to the general public. And so my first book, called Riding the Intuitive Wave, was my journey to learn how to be a little bit more intuitive. And the second book was 10 years apart there again. It was called With Heart: How Consciousness Links Us to the Universe. And that one was probably a little bit more scientific proof behind some of the stuff. It wasn't so much just my journey, but it was more of a full philosophical book and the science behind it. And then the last 2 I've written, one is called Threshold to Encounters. That really has to do with the cryptid YouTube channel that I have. And I've learned a lot about Bigfoot, cryptids, paranormal through that process. And then the last book I wrote, Spire Your Way to Power and Success, that kind of back engineers my success story as a real estate investor and going into business and using my intuition in a way that has helped me be more successful, more profitable.
Hold on one second. Okay. How has using your intuition changed? Were you not using your intuition before? Or was there a certain moment where you thought, oh, it's time to use my intuition?
Yeah, there was a turning point, but I actually was observing all along. I started real estate investing in the 80s, and that's when it really started showing up, was kind of knowing when I was going to buy a property, how much it would sell for, that sort of thing. It was like just kind of this inner feeling that I had. It was a calmness, actually. And I began to understand that my body was speaking to me, which is really a subconscious thing, that you're aware of circumstance that you're not consciously acknowledging, but your body is aware of it. So it sends a signal through. So I understood that was happening to me, and some really profound moments that were very successful for me. But when I turned 40, it was around 1989, I decided I wanted to cultivate that more accurately. So I began taking a class that taught focus, concentration, hypnosis. I did that. I also did meditation, and all of that honed in that skill. And eventually I began to take that gut feeling or that sense of that intuitive sense from my subconscious mind. I began to take that into a very deliberate kind of dialogue where I could have absolute knowing from some of that. So it's still not 100% accurate, but I began to understand I could utilize that in a way that was far more sophisticated and more correct than just random intuitive moments that had happened to me in the earlier days.
And so with the was there a time when you were doubting it?
Oh, always.
After that?
Yeah. I mean, you always have this, surely that's not correct. Surely that's not true. But it proved itself too correct too often and was always leading me toward things I wanted. So I began to really give it a lot more respect than I did in my earlier days. And I began, helping other people understand, began teaching other people to do this. And the proof was in what I was able to see. And my specialty really is helping people see opportunities in their future, because that's kind of what I saw in my life, And I can give you some examples. There was a woman, this was about a relationship, but there was a woman who lived in Colorado. And I didn't know her real well, but I knew her somewhat. She was 40. She was a teacher. She'd never been married. And she just randomly asked me, okay, what do you see in a relationship for me in my future? So I said, okay, let's just look at this. And what I saw was a man. I described his physique and I described his occupation. And then I said, he is in close proximity to you often, but you've never met him. Then I saw where he lived. He lived exactly 10 miles due south of her home in a grove of trees, which was odd because she lived in kind of a desert type of area in Colorado. So within a few weeks, she joined a ballroom dance class. She met someone that fit that physique. He was in the computer field, and they started dating. She found out every week he was right across from the school where she taught. And because his sister lived there, and he would go for dinner on Wednesday evenings. So they were in close proximity often, but had never met. And then when she finally started dating him and went to his home, he lived exactly 10 miles due south of her house in a grove of trees. So those are things that you can see things in the future that are probabilities, but maybe not, nothing in the future set in stone because it's a random kind of thing. But pulling that randomness out of what future possibilities are sitting there helps you to take advantage of those. Now in real estate, that's what I did very, very dominantly. I understood that I could see things, and there was one incident that, kind of over and above all the others, that my intuition really, really super guided us into creating a real profitable situation for us. There was a farm, it was a horse ranch really, that was going to auction. And it had sold for like $1 million. And this was back in 2000 or so. So $1 million then would be like 5 million today. Okay. So It was a 22.22 acre farm, horse ranch with an 8,000 square foot home, 3-story. It had, gated front entrance with, paved drive that went up a hill with trees on each side, just picturesque. It was absolutely beautiful. And it was a newer home, pool in the back, bunch of horse ranch barns, that sort of thing. So even though that was kind of out of our price range, we felt at that time, we were pretty new investors at that point. And we didn't have, cash to buy anything, but we often would go look at properties that were going to auction anyway, just because it was something we did. We had a real estate company at that point in time, and we were doing real estate investing, but pretty small time. So we went out on a Sunday, we took a look at the property, we're driving around the land, we'd already seen the house. And all of a sudden I had this intuitive impression, and I said it out loud. I said, this house, this is going to sell for $300,000. And my husband looked at me and he said, well, if this sells for $300,000, we need to buy it. Well, we didn't have $300,000. So we went to the bank, we got approved for the loan, but we didn't even have the amount of money that would be required for the down payment. So we were going to have all of this in place prior to the auction, which was in 3 weeks. We didn't have much time. So we're sitting there, not knowing exactly how we would go about getting the down payment when we got 2 calls, not initiated by us whatsoever in any way. Got a call from a man who wanted to buy a little Quonset hut garage we owned. And he had cash. He was a neighbor. He just wanted to control the property there, and he could close within a week. And we got another call from a man who wanted to buy a storage building that we owned on a little piece of land. And he had cash, and he wanted to buy that within that week. So we closed both of those properties within a week, had exactly the amount of money we needed for the down payment. We went to the big horse ranch auction that day. It started really low, bidding upward. We assumed it would go for close to that $1 million price. We had the bid at $300,000 when the auctioneer looked at us and he said sold at $300,000, and we owned it for $300,000. So that type of intuitive awareness prior to the auction enabled us to have everything in place in order to purchase that property at the auction, which we would not have had that opportunity had I not been listening to my intuition prior to.
And so let's see. So with that then, were you, once you had that, then did you move into that place, or was that just to sell to someone else, or what was that?
We debated on moving into it. It was just my husband and I, and we really couldn't justify an 8,000 square foot home. We would get lost in that property. And so we opted to do a little bit of cleanup to it, do a little bit of fix up there. And there was a couple at the at the auction actually that really regretted not buying it. I'm sure a lot of people regretted not buying it that day, but they contacted us, and they were farmers. They really could utilize that property as a farm. And my husband and I were not farmers, we were real estate people. So,
Right.
so we did eventually sell that property, and we did really well on the sale of it. And so we came out ahead, and it put us in a different category of being able to do real estate investing. So that launched even, a larger array of things that we could actually financially do. Listening to that over and over again, there was another point in time after that I remember the exact place I was. I was in an automobile, and I heard that there was a subdivision that was for sale or would be for sale, and we needed to buy it. And so we didn't know for sure where it was. The next day we're looking, but this is back in the days when, things were in the newspaper back then. Now you're going to see everything online, but it was in the newspaper. And my husband saw these 3 properties for sale by an owner. He called them, and when he went to look at them, come to find out there was the whole subdivision that I had seen, and he wanted to sell it all. He was moving out of the country, actually, and wanted to just move these rental properties, out of his possession. So he was willing to owner finance. We were able to get into that very easily. But I saw that, and I don't know if we would have pursued that as diligently had I not been aware that the property was out there somewhere. But indeed it was. So it's seeing things in advance and being able to take advantage of some of those opportunities that you see. Most of the time when people think about gut feelings, they think about warnings, to not do this or not do that, or there's, some danger. And that's often how our subconscious mind will communicate to us, is in a warning. And those are usually random and protective. I have kind of taken that to another level with my spy technique and the classes that I teach, to be able to see the future of opportunities rather than just warnings. And sometimes it's warnings too, but opportunities are always available to us if we just know how to get there. So I went on and taught other people. I've had 30 years of teaching people how to be aware of their intuition and how to use it as another resource right there side by side your analytical ability and reasoning capacity.
So what are you wanting to use that for now? Like what in the future would you like to be using that for the most?
Well, right now I'm using it in getting guests on my latest podcast will be Intuitive Briefcase. And I'm big on helping people to improve their lives and make life better. And so I teach people how to do this for themselves, but I'm working on a podcast right now to bring in guests and have interesting stories, interesting pieces of information where people can understand their intuition is strong, but also there are other things that I want to bring into that picture, things that I'm not as well versed in as I am, like say real estate investing or how to become more intuitive. I'm starting to interview people at this point, and I'm interviewing a woman who understands dreams, another person who understands the mind-body relationship, which is also strong in my wheelhouse on using my intuition. A woman who had a near-death experience and survived that, lived to talk about it, to tell about that experience. Just a lot of different things that people have had these experiences that are sometimes viewed as something less than sane or normal. My whole life has been filled with things that people may poo-poo a lot, and say that they're not real. But it's been the story of my life, and it certainly has paid off. And I see other people experiencing the same things. So I want to normalize that.
So what was your near-death experience?
I haven't had one, but I may have had one when I was a baby, but the woman I interviewed, it was fascinating. She had a really difficult pregnancy. And in that pregnancy, her blood pressure went sky high and she just had some problems. But she delivered the baby. Everything seemed to be fine. The baby was 6 months old, and she took a trip to visit her relatives, took the baby with her. It was just the two of them on an airplane to visit relatives. When she came home, she was on the plane. She started feeling kind of funny, got off the plane, and she started feeling really bad. And remember, she is alone at an airport with a 6-month-old baby. She feels like she's not going to be able to hold it together. She feels like she's going to pass out. She sees coming down the hall her husband, which was meeting the two of them to pick them up from the airport at home. And she kind of blacks out. Luckily, her husband was there, could take care of the child. She died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. They completely lost her. She had no vital signs for 30 minutes. They could not revive her. When she got to the hospital, they finally were able to revive her. She came back, and she had a whole story to tell about her experience when she was declared dead. But the scary part for me was, oh my gosh, what would you do in an airport with a 6-month-old baby, not knowing who would take care of this child or what would happen to that child? That was the drama I was feeling for her, was, to be in that position and not know how that would turn out, but it all turned out really well for her. So.
Right. So the reason I asked that about you, there's been a big crossover of people who have had near-death experiences and being able to, I don't know what the correct term would be, or phrasing, like to be able to be more intuitive. And and you said something about when you were a baby, maybe, or is that just?
Yeah. No, I don't know for sure if I had a near-death experience, but what I do know is that as a child, I had a fever, and my mother had taken me along with her mother to an uncle's house. And while I was there, they noticed that I wasn't responding well. My eyes rolled up in my forehead, or my eyes rolled up, and like as if, I was just near death. And they rushed me to the doctor's office, which was in a small town nearby. It was still around a 20-minute drive. And they were able to revive me. But being a baby, no one declared me dead, but I often wondered, because I've heard the same stories that you've heard, that people with near-death experiences often become very psychically connected and have some kind of a connection above and beyond people who haven't had that experience. But I often wonder if I did have some kind of a near-death experience at that point. But there again, I don't have any proof of that, but it is something that happened to me.
Right. Yeah, I've heard a lot of that, and there's been a lot of crossover, and I like asking that question. I feel like there's usually something there, some sort of something, and I don't know what that is. And I've also gone down some rabbit holes of with the I don't know what they call it. They used to call it the tag or gate program with kids in school, like in the 80s and 90s, 70s, 80s and 90s, like and a lot of kids have had a lot of like near drowning experiences that ended up having these like for the gifted program kind of a deal. And a lot of them had near drowning experiences, and I was wondering, I don't know, I couldn't figure out, I've been trying to figure out what that would be like with the near death, or I guess that's still near death, but near death including water, why that would be. And I don't know if
There are different parts of our physiology that I know if those change or are impacted in some way, then sometimes that can indeed cause there to be some form of a connection. I know one of the remote viewers that I know, he was in combat and he had a helmet on, and the helmet was shot by a bullet. It didn't go into his skull, but it caused a kind of unusual concussion kind of thing that happened to him. And after that, he started having these spontaneous out-of-body experiences, and he didn't have a clue what was going on with him, but he wanted to understand what that was about. So he eventually got involved with, the military's remote viewing program, and he has come full circle to understand that, something jolted in his brain, which caused him to then be able to have these conscious connections. And these out-of-body experiences, and then he became a really good remote viewer. Now, remote viewing itself, or the intuitive work like I teach, doesn't require some kind of a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience or getting shot in the head with a bullet. I mean, those are dramatic. You can learn how to get into or access those parts of your brain and your consciousness to connect with realms that have this information. Your subconscious mind, and probably beyond that into universal mind, which holds all this information that you can access. But it just takes training, and it takes time and effort to be able to connect with that if you don't naturally have it. But it's learnable. Anyone can learn how to do to some degree of it.
Well, then I think I've had this conversation too with another friend that with head injuries, because I mean, head injuries are a lot more common than we know. I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I was a kid who played a lot of sports, did a lot of stupid shit, and yeah, I've hit my head, maybe more than once or twice, and it doesn't take much to rattle the brain around, or even just playing soccer, and every time, you know, you hit the ball off your head or something like that, that's jostling your brain around plenty. And I mean, it doesn't take much, but yeah, as far as, but then like the remote viewing or um, but then I think that can also lead to creativity, and I think those two kind of overlap, because being able to have fucking weird ideas, that where they come from, where are those getting pulled from, where, you know, like what you were saying with being able to see that, you know, for the real estate, or for the woman with the man that she was going to end up with. um, I think it's kind of the same thing. And uh, like using this one, Michael Jackson said that uh, you know, these ideas were out in the world, out in the ether or whatever, for songs, and he knew that he had to grab them, and if he didn't get them, that Prince would come and get them, and Prince would make those songs. And I think that it's out there, and it's, yeah, just being able to pick up on it. And so you teach people how to pick up on that. And
Yeah. Yeah. And also, you know, just to be concentrated and focused enough to not be distracted by imagination or what your conscious mind is making up along the way. Because that's what usually happens. We think consciously in terms of nouns. We want to put a name to everything. And when you're just being open-minded with your intuition, allowing that piece of information, you don't declare it to be a certain thing. You just are able to just be a receptive vessel to just hear it or know it or see it, or something that is different than putting definition on it. Our analytical mind, you know, wants to fill in the blanks of everything, and that's how we generally maneuver in the world. But when you're being intuitive, you have to just kind of go blank and be receptive to some things. So my receptivity got very strong, like whenever the download happened and I heard the words, "This is going to sell for 300,000." I didn't try to rationalize that. That was just blank, you know, it just came in. And so I didn't try to say, which normally most people would, there's no way this is going to sell for 300,000. It's worth way more than 300,000. I mean, that's just a ridiculous thought. And that would get just tucked away into some foreign place. You might not even remember that you had the thought. But when it sold for 300,000, there was a process that took place where I had enough confidence in that piece of information to pursue the loan. We went ahead and sold the 2 properties that came in for the down payment. We showed up at the auction. We bid at the auction because I had enough confidence to know if that came in intuitively to me, it has some validity.
right. And so are people ever searching for those answers, or do they come up naturally, and uh, like naturally, and just be able to be there? Like, can you say, oh, I want to be able to find a property for really cheap. Where is it? Or does it have to be, I got this thing that something popped up, there's going to be a property available for 300,000, go find it? Which is a combination.
I understand what you're asking.
Well,
I
that's
think
good,
what for
this is a
me,
horrible way to.
because I took this to such a extended degree, I learned how to ask a question, get an answer. And yes, I can ask where in, like, the city where I live, if I'm looking to buy a property, I can say, where is the most valuable piece of real estate right now that I can afford, you know, that is within this range of money that I can afford, that, you know, what's the best value here, you know, that it's going to work as either a rental property that I'm going to own, or it's going to work as a resale property I'm going to resell, whatever my intent is with it. And yes, there will be an area of town, possibly even an address come in, may not be that specific. I may actually physically see the property, or I may just know a general area. Then if I go this is where it switches over from my intuitive impression says that there's something in this area that's a great value, probably the best value in town. Then I'll go and multi-list, see what's available in that area, and I'll find a property there. It's like, yeah, that's the one. So that will be the one I want to look at. And I will go through all my normal real estate steps analytically and reasonably to look at it and confirm that that is a really good buy in that area before I make an offer on it, of course, because that's just how we use both the left and right portions of the brain, our intuition right there, along with reasoning and logic, before I would make an offer. But it hasn't led me wrong yet. It knows, my subconscious mind knows what I'm asking and is able to deliver those answers. But I took this to a really heightened degree. I practiced it every day. I proved it to myself all the time. And it's not only that, but when I'm buying Christmas presents, I mean, this may sound silly, but it saves a lot of time. It's like, okay, what would this person like, and where am I going to find that in town? So I can either order it online or I can find it in town, and it's there, and it just saves me tons of time, money, and effort, and it works.
So what about with relationships? It doesn't have to be romantic relationships. Because with being able to see into the future or notice patterns of that sort, your probability of being correct most of the time, how does that work? Does it, because I assume that can be pretty powerful, and I assume there's also a scale of how it can be used from good to bad, just as everything else.
Absolutely. I teach ethics with this top of the list is, teaching ethics with what I teach, but also, knowing your accuracy rate really helps, because I'm not 100% accurate. I'm around 75 to 85% accurate, but there's that part of me that's not. And the way that I proved that to myself was early on, I would remote view things that I would remote view properties in the area, a house that I could describe. It would be some street that I'd never seen before, but it would be a residential house. And I picked those randomly from the phone book. And then I would go see, had I accurately described this property. And I began to understand I had about an 85% success rate, when 85% of the time I described it accurately, including the question that I always ask at the end of that session: give me one thing at this property that sets it apart from everything else. And I might see a blue tarped boat on the right side of the backyard. I might see some kind of weird ornament in the yard, something that sets it apart. So it's not just, guesswork, and houses only have so many windows and roof colors and, things like that. So you could start making some of that up and still have a pretty high accuracy rate. So I was aware of that. So I understood I had a pretty high success rate in being able to see things. Being able to see things in the future, those are, as quantum physics dictates, the future is made up of random events, and it will just randomly unfold. So that's the scale of seeing the future is one whereby this opportunity is here, but it could go another direction at any point. I think by seeing it, and I'll backtrack of why I think this, but by seeing it, we kind of put like an energy field around that, which helps us to bring that more devotedly into our life, which is manifesting it. But the reason I say that is because there again, early on when I was developing this, I was learning about, kind of our creatorship, how our conscious mind interacts with a life to create it. But I was also learning how to be more intuitive, more aware, more psychic about things. And I was on a trip about a 5-hour drive from my house. It was kind of early evening, and it was starting to rain. It was cold, and I knew the potential for icy roads was kind of high. So I just intuitively asked, if this was going to be safe, and where was this rain going to end? And I got a specific town about 2 hours ahead of us that, from that point on, this is what came in. From that point forward, the roads would be perfectly dry, and I would have no problem, finishing the trip. So by the time we got there, 2 hours down the road, rain stopped immediately when we got to this town, and it was dry roads all the way. Well, of course, that just opened up 10 more questions in my mind. It's like, okay, did I create that or did I just see that? And the answer that came back was both. And so then I had to try to figure out, okay, well, how is it that you create something like that? Or, if you intuitively see it. But then I worked with a physicist, and my last book, Spire Your Way to Power and Success, talks about this process whereby once you see something in the future, you create this kind of energy field around it. And as long as you continue to promote that vision, it has more opportunity to be out of the randomness of the future and become an actual reality within your future. So let's look back at the $300,000 property. The fact that I saw that or heard it anyway, that connected me and entangled me with that possibility that we could buy it. But it was our actions. We went to the loan company. We got approved for the loan. We sold the 2 properties, which gave us the down payment. We went to the auction. All of these things indicated that we still had a hold or was still entangled with the possibility of buying that house for $300,000. So that is part of the manifestation process. It's not just seeing it, but it's also hanging on to that all the way through until it becomes a reality. Future is random. It's just random events that happen. And so if we see it, it gives us one more stage and one more step for that actually to happen. So I always encourage people, as you're looking into the future, always see the highest positive potential. Don't see the negative. See the highest positive potential there. So you can have the best opportunity to bring that into your life. And that's what I teach, but that's also what I learned to do.
So if people want to learn from you in your teaching, how are they going to find you? How do they do that to work with you?
Yeah, they can just email me at lindaeastburn@gmail.com. They can also go to my website, which is lindaeastburn.com. You can also find me on Facebook. I'm all over, Facebook links, Instagram. There as well. I also have a YouTube channel, but it's a little different because it's the cryptid paranormal things. Also came in intuitively to go down that route, and it's been very, very fun and enjoyable to do. Met a lot of really interesting people. And you can connect with me in so many ways. I'm very public. Put in my name, Linda Eastburn. You're going to find a gajillion ways to contact me. So,
are there other Linda Eastburns out there that?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm a hypnotherapist, and there's one Linda Eastburn in Colorado that's also a hypnotherapist, which is really funny.
Oh, okay.
There are a couple more ones in marketing, and I think there's another one, but there's about 4 of us out there. Most of the time you can understand, who I am, because I'm going to have all of those things about intuition. I'm the only one that's done this work.
Have you talked to any of the other Linda Eastburns?
I haven't, but I thought about contacting the one in Colorado. I don't think she's in business now because I haven't seen her pop up on anything on the internet for a while. But it was really fun because I had worked as a hypnotherapist for quite a while and still do some hypnosis, by the way, and teach some of that. But it was kind of fun that, that we both had the same name and doing the same work.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, we know which Linda Eastburn to look up. So, Linda, thanks so much for being on. I'm happy we got to have this conversation, and hope you have a great rest of your day, because there's still a lot of time left in the day. So you can do whatever else. You can go and sit outside under a tree and look up at the sky, or whatever you want to do. Whatever you want to do. There's still a lot of time left in the day. So enjoy the hell out of it. All right.
Thank you very much. And you as well.
You bet. Thank you. All right. That's Linda Eastburn, everyone. You guys check her out. I'll put the links down below. I'm not going to put them here in the thing like this, because I don't know how to do that. So fuck that. Fuck that noise. I'll just put it in the description, so it'll say it all in there. And if you can't find her from there, I don't know what to tell you. I know that people listen to this show are smart, especially if you're listening still at 39 minutes into this. You're probably pretty fucking smart. So thank you everyone so much for being here on the Rusty Diamond Podcast Network. Find me, rustydiamond.net, hypnosisisgreat.com. You got popuphealing.net. You got worldclasscustoms.com. You can find either one of my books, Hypnosis is Great or Erotic Hypnosis is Great, on Amazon. And there's a zillion other fucking things. If you go to rustydiamond.net, it has everything you need. So thanks everyone so much for being here. And that is the show. Man. Boom.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.